Welcome to my UK Global Talent Visa educational webinar on digital technologies. I haven't done one of these for so long, and thank you so much for coming today and taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend my webinar. Just a quick contents about what it's going to be about. It's about how you can get endorsed for the UK Global Talent Visa. I will share my story about how I received my UK Global Talent Visa and then went on to become a Global Talent Visa coach and to help others receive their endorsements, and then they go off and get their visas. I will talk about what is a Global Talent Visa, the stage 1 endorsement application and process, and then at the end, please do pop in the chat or the Q&A any questions that you may have, and I will get to them. But hopefully I will have answered some of your questions during my webinar. If not, please do put it in the chat or the Q&A. Just a little bit about myself, if I haven't spoken to or I haven't met you. My name is Michelle. I am Vietnamese. I'm an Australian citizen, and I am now a British citizen by virtue of the fact that I got the UK Global Talent Visa, and I'm now a coach. In 2016, I received my endorsement for exceptional talent, and then went on to get my visa. And back then in 2016, it was such a new visa, and I became the Tech Nation Visa Ambassador for 2 years. And what that meant was I shared my story. I went on to some of the forums and events that Tech Nation hosted, just basically talking about my journey, my story on how I received it. Because it was such a new visa back then, they needed ambassadors, and they still do have ambassadors, because as I said, no two stories are the same, and as many people as they can possibly get to share their story, it helps others to get the courage to apply and learn and understand what the process is all about. In 2019, 3 years after receiving my visa, I went on to get my Indefinite Leave to Remain visa, and then received my British citizenship. So it is a route to settlement. I spent 7 years in the UK. I based myself in Manchester, London, and Newcastle. I actually lived in Manchester and Newcastle and travelled a lot down to London for my startup, and to immerse myself in the London tech scene. I was very immersed in both Manchester and Newcastle tech scene as well. And this is one thing that if you are in the UK or even in your own countries, please do immerse yourself in the tech sector, because you will meet such amazing people. And what I found was it's such a collegial environment, and everyone is very, very helpful. I was a solicitor before I became a tech entrepreneur. I started my own tech company called Made with Glove. It was a wearable tech glove business, and I got the entrepreneurial bug and needed a visa, which I subsequently received. Now, I was on a different visa before I got the Global Talent Visa. I was on the Entrepreneur's Visa, which back then was available for entrepreneurs, but it's kind of like an innovator's visa now. And when that came, the time where it was going to expire, so I got it only for three and a half years. I didn't know what else was available. I couldn't extend that visa because they had strict criteria to extend. And then luckily the Global Talent Visa only just came up, and I was able to apply, and I got it. My immigration journey has just been extremely long and challenging, but the Global Talent Visa kind of just made it so much easier, and it ended my stress of getting visas all the time, and I could focus on my company. I started this whole journey by writing about my blog, by writing about my journey, and received so many people emailing me and contacting me about my journey. So I wrote the blog, and then it ended up being a business, and I'm now the Global Talent Visa coach for it. I've coached over 1,000 tech entrepreneurs, senior execs, and tech employees. My success rate is 90%, and some of my clients have received a decision within 3 to 27 hours, when they can take up to 8 weeks. On average, it's about a 3 to 4 week decision by the assessors, but when my clients come back after submission in 3 hours or 27 hours, it's amazing, because the waiting time feels like forever. And I've been there. It's horrible. Once you've spent so much time in preparing your application and then you just have to wait however long and you don't know how long, it's painful. So it's amazing when they receive such a quick result. And then once you receive your result, then you apply for your visa. My clients over the years have come from all over. They've been, from big tech companies like WhatsApp, Sony, LinkedIn, Meta, Google, Zoom, Oracle, Coinbase, to startup founders, to CTOs, CEOs, UX designers, game designers, digital marketers, cybersecurity experts, you name it. I've pretty much helped a load of people. And someone has already asked a question about having such a varied background. And that is true. A lot of my clients either come from technical and switch to business, or vice versa. People go from, designers. I've helped people from graphic design, and then they've moved to product design, and then they've gone into UX UI design. So and that's the trajectory of their career. And we do tell that story. But according to the guidelines, you do have to pick, your most current career in, when you do the application form, but then your story can talk about, the different career paths you've had that led you to where you are today. And it takes quite a bit of strategy around that and what evidence you can provide, but it's completely possible. And I can talk to you about how to structure your evidence to showcase and highlight your career journey over the 5 to 10 years. And just a quick disclaimer, I only help with the stage 1 endorsements. I'm not an immigration lawyer. And if you wanted immigration advice, I can certainly refer you, but I only deal with stage 1 endorsements. Now, over the years, when I applied for my visa or my endorsement, I had to prove certain things like leadership. And these are the types of things that the assessors are looking for. I was able to show a lot of publicly available information about me. I was interviewed, I was quoted, I hosted panel discussions. I was, in the Sunday Times for my startup. I was a judge at an IoT hackathon. I was, featured in TechCrunch and Business Leaders. So those types of things are what they're looking for. A lot of publications about you. A lot of people don't have it, and that's okay. I've helped people that don't, but it's just easier if you do, because you need to show that you are a leader in the tech sector. And here is my blog. My blog is still up, and it's on my website, and it tells about the journey of how I received my Global Talent visa, the endorsement, and all the people that helped me, because it is a grueling process. No one understands how grueling it is until one has been through it. And I really enjoyed sharing my story, and I've met so many people from it, and it led me to where I am today. So just a quick update about TechNation. Last year, TechNation made an announcement that they were going to close, and that sent everyone into a massive frenzy, and people were very stressed, and they just started applying all over the place, and applications shot up. But then with so many applications, there were lots of rejections because people were rushing. Even though TechNation confirmed that, just apply as normal, don't worry. But I guess, with the uncertainty, people were worried. But now, TechNation has been acquired by Founders Forum. There is going to be a new endorsing body. There is a procurement or tender process in place to find out who the new endorsing body for digital tech is. At the moment, it is still TechNation, but they're going through this process of a new endorsing body. But it just continue to apply as normal. We know what the criteria is now, so everything is unaffected. So don't worry. I've been through this. It was very stressful at that time, so I'm not going to worry. And I'm telling all my clients, don't worry, proceed as normal as what they're saying. So what is the Global Talent Visa? It used to be called the Exceptional Talent Visa, which I received, but it's now called the Global Talent Visa. Same thing. It's a special visa that was introduced to allow highly skilled tech entrepreneurs and talent that work in the digital tech sector the ability to apply for the right to live and work in the UK for up to 5 years. It's a 2-stage process. Okay, the first stage is the endorsement stage, and you need to be endorsed by an endorsing body, which is TechNation, and you need to meet the strict criteria that's set by TechNation. Once you are endorsed, you can then apply for stage 2, and that is the actual visa. And that's where, if you do need help, an immigration lawyer can help you whereas I only help with stage 1 endorsement. It has no impact on the visa process. It is more than a job application. It has the flavor of a job application, but it's a bit more than that, and I'll go through it. And that's the leadership type stuff that I was talking about when I applied. Now, if I don't know if they're still using this hashtag, but when I was applying, and for a while, they used the hashtag Technation Visa to distinguish, because the Global Talent Visa is an umbrella visa. There are lots of different endorsing bodies that endorse applicants from different sectors, such as fashion, arts, architecture, science, engineering, and tech. So Technation is the endorsing body for the tech route, but then there are other endorsing bodies for other routes. So that's why they had this hashtag Technation Visa to distinguish from the different endorsing bodies. The benefits of the Global Talent Visa is that it gives you the freedom and flexibility to live and work in the UK for up to 5 years. You can apply for indefinite leave to remain and British citizenship, and I can attest to that. You can bring your dependents with you as well, children under the age of 18, and your spouse and partner. And you can also register a UK limited company. And this is important because I help lots of students, because they are on a student visa and their visa had so many restrictions for them, including, registering a limited company in the UK. So once, those students wanted to start their own startups, and once they switched to the Global Talent, they could start their own startups and register a UK limited company. You can also work for a tech company without the need for a company sponsorship. So those, like the ones under a skilled worker visa, they have those visas, and it's because they were sponsored by their company. But that comes with a lot of restrictions as well, in that, they may not be able to start their side hustle or do other things. And also they're restricted to working for that company. If they wanted to leave that company, then they would need another company to sponsor them. Whereas if you get the Global Talent Visa, you have the choice to work anywhere you want to, because the visa is attached to you, and you don't need to worry about a company to sponsor you. You have that freedom. It is also cost effective in that the stage 1 application, the endorsement application, is in the hundreds, and it's not that expensive, I would say, compared to other visas. But it's just, I guess, it's not a visa, it's an endorsement. But then once you do get endorsed and you apply for the visa, that's when the fee goes up, mainly because of the immigration health surcharge, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the actual stage 1 endorsement application fee is not that much. Just going back, the great thing about the visa for me also, when I was working as a startup entrepreneur, I was under the Global Talent Visa, but I wanted a break from my startup, because when you're working for a startup or your own startup, it can get quite stressful and lonely. And, I felt that I wanted a bit of a change, have a break from my startup. So I worked for an accelerator. I worked for a university just to have a bit of a break, and then came back to working for my startup. And my visa allowed me to do that. It was attached to me. So that was really good. I was able to earn some money, which is great, and not worry for a little bit, and then went back to work for my startup. So talked about those benefits there, but the real benefits when in experiencing it myself, and also talking to my clients who receive the Global Talent Visa, is it gives you credibility. Technation are endorsing you as an exceptionally talented leader in tech, or an emerging leader in tech, and that gives you a bit of confidence that someone else has said you're pretty good, that you have an exceptional talent. Some of my clients have gone on, because of this newfound confidence and credibility, they've now gone for promotions, alongside the fact that the company is no longer sponsoring them, so they have the courage to ask for promotions, to ask for pay rises, which when someone is sponsoring your visa, you kind of feel like you're on the back foot. But because you have your own visa, you can negotiate and you can ask for more things, because you can leave at any time, and that's what this visa allows you to do, is have that freedom and flexibility. It also gives you more opportunities, because if you didn't have a visa, or if a company was sponsoring you, you wouldn't be looking at other things because it would just be too hard. But now that the visa is attached to you, you can look up and out and see what's available to you to progress in your career. You also become an accidental role model as well, for people from your own countries, who look at you and think, I want to be like them. They got the visa, so why can't I? And they moved from their country to the UK, or they've been living in the UK for some time and now becoming, on the route to settlement and citizenship. And that is quite inspiring. And this is the whole purpose of the ambassadorship program for the Tech Nation visa is, they want people to become ambassadors who've received the visa because they become role models for people in their own countries. It also gives you some level of security as well. A lot of my clients, were really scared to think about the future if they're on a visa that's sponsored by their company, or visas that were, that had an expiry date. Some are looking at buying houses now, because they know that they're going to be in the UK for the foreseeable future. So these are the real benefits of the Global Talent Visa, which I've experienced and my clients have experienced. Just some of the stats, people from all over the world, 90+ countries are applying for the visa. There's a 54% endorsement rate. So that's 1 in 2 that don't get it, or 1 in 2 that do get it. So it is quite tough, because the application process and the documents, it's quite a lot. And a lot of my clients do say that it's like a PhD of your career. So it does take a bit of prep work to do and to get the endorsement. Over the years, there have been about 3,000+ successful recipients, which doesn't seem like a lot. But I know it could be the reason when I applied back in 2016, and I think up until 2019, or even 20, they had a cap on the endorsements. So every year there was only 200 endorsements available. So not only did you have to meet the criteria, you had to fall under that cap for them to endorse you. And that was quite stressful as well. But now they've lifted that cap. Anyone that meets the criteria can be endorsed. So that's one less stress. And trust me, when I was doing it, it was very stressful. Plus the fact that I was one of the top 50 that got it, which meant no one really knew about it, and I didn't have any stories to go on. I kind of just fumbled my way through it, and applied, and luckily I got it. So now there's so many people that have been endorsed. They're sharing their stories, they're blogging, they're writing about it, and that's the great thing now for all of you who want to apply. There's loads and loads of content around about that. There's less women in tech in general, so there's a 75-25 split for men and women in tech who apply. And then once you do get the visa, you can join the Tech Nation Visa Alumni. So it's a community of recipients who come together through Slack and Facebook, and they share their stories, or they ask for help for certain things. And that's a nice little community there for people who've gone through the process. These are just some more stats here. Don't be put off, by these stats, but it's just what they've found, that the endorsement rate from these countries are higher than endorsements rates from those countries. Having said that, there are more people from these countries that are applying as well. So, I do help a lot more people from these countries. And the skills that people are being endorsed with, because it's a tech visa, of course, those who are in software engineering, product management, they're getting endorsed, but those with business development skills in the tech sector are getting endorsed. So these are the skills, but that goes on by the guidelines that these are the types of occupations that they want people to have. Okay. And here are just some of the stats of applications being submitted. Again, that's a 54% endorsement rate. So I was down here, not many stats there, but as you can see over the years, it's grown and grown and grown. And this one was a huge spike when Tech Nation announced the closure, and they had like 600 applications in 2 months, which is a lot. Poor assessors had to go through all these applications. And then over the years, this year, there's been a number of applications. Okay. Okay, the process, quite a scary process, or sounds quite confusing, but the endorsement process, there's a 2-stage process. Okay, the first stage is you've got to pay and register online at the Home Office. Okay, once you're ready with your application, go on the Home Office website, and you've got to pay, that's where you pay your fee, the 524, which isn't a lot, it's in the hundreds. Then you've got 30 working days. So you've got 15 working days. And if you don't, they send you a reminder in another 15 working days to upload your documents onto the Tech Nation portal. So first stage is you pay at the Home Office, and then the second stage is you upload all your documents, your 15 documents, onto the Tech Nation portal, which is quite easy to follow. It'll take you about 40 minutes, making sure everything is right, upload it all. When I applied, I had to send it. I had to print everything out and send it by snail mail to Sheffield. And yeah, and they had to look at it in paper form, but now it's all digital. They have up to 8 weeks. The assessors from Tech Nation have up to 8 weeks to assess your application, and it's the Home Office that come back to you to tell you the decision. The average is 3 to 4 weeks, okay? And they tell you whether or not you are successful or unsuccessful. If you are successful, they say, you know, they don't say congratulations, they just say you have been endorsed and you may now apply for stage 2 visa. And you've got 3 months to do that. And that's where you go back to the Home Office, and it's a proper visa application. It's £192 for the application fee. But what's more expensive is the immigration health surcharge, which is the health fee, and it's $1,035 per year. So if you're choosing a 5-year visa, it's 5,000 something. So it is quite high, but you know, the value of the visa is significant. So the biometrics, I think, is about less than £20, but they're roughly the fee. There might be a tuberculosis test depending on which country you're from, but these are just the general fees you'll have to check when you apply. And it takes 3 to 8 weeks. You've got to attend the appointment, biometrics, and then you get your actual visa within 3 to 8 weeks. I got mine really quickly, like within a week of going to my biometrics. So this process is actually quite quick. Now, if you are unsuccessful, there is an opportunity to appeal only if the assessor made a mistake in assessing your application, not because you didn't like the result. And also, if you want to appeal, you can't add new evidence. So it is really important to have a strong application to begin with and make sure everything is in there before you submit, because if you are unsuccessful, you cannot add new information in at all. So when my clients work with me, it depends what package they want, but I would love to see applications before they're submitted, because if I can catch anything, I'd love to, but if they don't want to, then they come to me to appeal, and it makes it really hard for me to appeal when I haven't been involved in the application preparation process, because I'm restricted in what you've already submitted. You can't add new evidence. All I can do is clarify what you had done, and fingers crossed it goes to another assessor to assess your application and the first assessor's feedback, and they make a call and decide within 28 calendar days if you are successful or unsuccessful. So you have 28 calendar days to respond, and they have 28 calendar days to make the final decision. And if they overturn the first assessor's decision, perfect, that's great. You are successful, you go to stage 2. If you are unsuccessful, again, then use that feedback and potentially resubmit. And I've helped loads of clients resubmit. I've helped loads of clients with their appeals, and our strategy is not to appeal. Our strategy is to just take that feedback and resubmit, and that gives them a stronger chance as well. It's just, yeah, you lose time if you do the application yourself, get an unsuccessful result, come to me, try to appeal, go back, and we start from scratch. So just bear that in mind. There's 2 categories in which you can apply for the endorsement. You can apply as an exceptional talent, or you can apply as an exceptional promise. Now, the difference is in the number of years of experience and the documents that you present. If you've got more than 5 years experience, the assessors consider that you should go under talent. Okay, you're later in your career, you should have some leadership through your skills and achievements, and these are more senior people in their field. If you have less than 5 years experience, that means that you're earlier on in your career, then you can prove that you have the potential to be a leader through your skills and achievements. So the benchmark is lower for those going under promise, and they're more for students, graduates, or more junior in their career. But a lot of people have asked me, like, I've got more than 5 years experience, but I'm going to go for the promise. That's circumventing the whole process. Assessors will see that, and they may, even if you decide to go for promise, they may assess you under talent because they know what you're trying to do. So you should, if you've got more than 5 years experience, you should go for talent, because it might go disadvantage you when the assessor reviews your application. Okay. So these are the documents. You need to provide 15 documents all in, roughly 3 pages each. That's your maximum limit. They give a limit. Otherwise, you could give them like 1,000 page. And it can get like that because it's like a PhD of your career. And 3 pages is doable. When I applied, it was 2 pages, and that was not enough room at all to explain everything and all the projects that you've worked on. So 3 pages is ample. Okay, you have to provide, everyone has to provide these 5 documents, which is your CV, 3-page CV, your personal statement, which is 1,000 words, and 3 letters of recommendations by experts in your field. And these experts are people that know you, who have known you for more than 12 months, who can vouch for your leadership, innovation, and impact in the field, and who know you've worked with you. They can be your mentors, they can be your bosses in the past, they can be industry, or they should be industry experts. And those who can really vouch and confirm the work that you've done, and talk about the relationship that you have with them. I have people contacting me asking me if I can find them experts, and that's not great. You need to have a relationship with these people, and they also need to have some kind of credibility. You have to Google them and to convince the assessor that they are experts in the field, which means not only are they high-level people in the company, but what have they done in the industry to call them an expert? Someone can be a VP or CEO of a company, but title doesn't mean that they're an expert in the field. And this is where Googling them is always useful, because you can find so much on Google. I Google myself. I hope you Google yourself as well to see what's out there about you. If people Google you, what will they find out about you? And then those are the 5 documents. And then the rest of the 10 documents make up from the mandatory and optional criteria. And I'll go through that in a sec, because there's 5 criteria and you choose 3. Okay, and everyone has to choose that mandatory, and there's only 1 mandatory criteria, which is leadership, and the optional criteria, there's 4, and you choose 2. You should only choose 2 out of 4. Don't choose like 3 or 4, because that's not what they're looking for, and that's not what they want, and they won't allow you to do that when you apply. And I'll go through that in a sec. I'll just go to eligibility now. And I do have eligibility calls where I will talk to people to determine whether or not they're eligible. Because as you can see here, if you have a technical skill or a business skill that's on the list, then that's 1 step towards eligibility. Okay. If your skill is not here because the tech sector moves so quickly and there are new skills and new jobs and titles and that coming up, pick the one that's most relevant to you. Okay. And then here, what they're in the guidelines, they're talking about, if you're a technical applicant, but you work for a non-technical organization, you're eligible. If you're a non-technical applicant, like you're a business person, and you work in a technical organization, then you are eligible. However, if you are a business applicant and you don't work for a technical organization, you're generally not eligible. I know it can sound quite confusing, but talk to me and I can determine whether or not you're eligible. One thing here, and I get a lot of questions, is these are specialisms that are considered not suitable, and it's usually people who work for consultancies. So those who are currently working for those types of consultancies, like the Wipros and the Capgeminis and the Tata Consultancy, JP Morgan, PwC, they're like consultancies, and unfortunately, they're not considered eligible for this route. They may already have their own skilled worker visa, but if you currently work for these companies, unfortunately, they're saying that you're not eligible. Investors as well. I get lots of questions about people who come from investment backgrounds. Junior investors aren't eligible for this, but if you're more senior here and you have experience leading investment of over 25 million, then yes, you would be eligible. But junior investors, unfortunately, even though they're junior, they can't go for exceptional promise anyway. They've specifically said no. If you have a business skill and you work in-house in a product-led digital technology company, you wouldn't be eligible. So you have to work for a product-led digital technology company. If you work for an agency, outsourcer, or marketing firm, you wouldn't be eligible if you have a business skill. I know it might sound confusing, but I can talk to you more specifically about that. Now, when you look at the guidelines, and if you have looked at the guidelines, they talk about product-led digital technology companies. They want people to have worked for or who are working for product-led digital technology companies because they want you to provide examples of products that you have built or developed, or products that you have sold or scaled or invested in for the company that you work for. So what is a product-led digital technology company? They're defined as businesses that provide a proprietary, which means they own a digital technical service, product, platform, or hardware as their primary revenue source. They create software, storage of data, or creation of application of technical computing hardware, and it's part of their business model. So basically, they're in the business of developing products that they own and that they sell to their customers, either by one-off or by subscription, like SaaS products. It excludes general consultancies, outsourcing, or technology-related consultancy groups focused on process or service delivery or solution systems architecture. So that it's a big no. So if you work for a consulting company, unfortunately, you're not eligible. But if you do leave that company and you work for a product-led, you would be eligible, but you will have to consider the time spent at the product-led digital technology company in order to meet the criteria. Being eligible is one thing, meeting the criteria is a whole nother thing. And that's where I help you when I just assess your eligibility, is whether or not you could potentially meet the criteria as well. And this is the eligibility, this is the criteria that you need to meet, you know, the 5 out of 3. The 3 out of the 5 that you need to choose. So you can go for talent or promise, okay? And the criteria is all the same for that. It's just the level of evidence that you provide. Everyone has to choose leadership as their mandatory criteria. So you need to produce 10 documents to cover this criteria. Because you have to choose 3 criteria, it's 3 documents or 3 examples per criteria, which takes it up to 9 documents. Your 10th document could be either if you are a founder of your own company, or you own a company, a digital tech company, you would produce your company registration documents as your 10th document. If you are an employee, you would pick one of the criteria that you're strongest in and put an extra document against that criteria to make it 4, 3, and 3, which is 10. I like to stack the leadership criteria to put 4 documents against that criteria and then 3 and 3 under these, because you have to choose the mandatory criteria and to make that really strong. Okay, that's my strategy usually. But then if someone has a lot of innovations or someone has, you know, lots of volunteer work, then we choose that and put 4 documents against that. So the 4 optional criteria where you choose 2 out of 4 from, either you can choose innovation, that you not only work for an innovative company, but the work that you do is highly innovative. The second criteria here is proof of recognition for work outside of your immediate occupation that contributes to the advancement of the tech sector. So it's not work that you do for your job, your everyday job, whereas this one can be. This one is about volunteer work and community work, and you need 3 separate examples of that. The third optional criteria could be part of your work because it requires you to show significant technical, commercial, entrepreneurial contributions to the field as a founder, senior exec, or employee of a product-led digital technology company. So it's where you work and that you've made significant technical, commercial, entrepreneurial contributions to the field from the work that you've done. And you need 3 examples of that. Impact. The fourth one, which not many people choose, but it's there that if you've made any academic contributions to the field from the work that you've done, you need 3 examples on that. And letters from professors are always really good as well. Okay, that's in addition to those 3 letters of recommendations by experts that we have discussed before. Okay, and I'll go through this in a little bit more detail. Leadership criteria. This is mandatory. You need to show that you have been recognized as a leading or potential talent in the digital technology sector. And they're saying that a leader of exceptional talent or promise must show extraordinary ability by sustained, which is consistent over a period of time, or emerging, national or international recognition. The individual will be able to demonstrate a level of expertise or emerging expertise, and that's the talent and promise, which places them at the forefront of their respective field in the digital technology sector. So the benchmark is quite high. This is why this is a mandatory criteria, and this is why I ask you to Google yourself anything that is public facing, if you have a public profile, and they want you to showcase that you are a leader in the field, not just within your own company. This is where I'll go through a little bit more detail. These are the examples of leadership. It's all in the guidelines. And I've split it out. There's internal leadership and there's external leadership. There are 10 examples of internal and external leadership in the guidelines. The first 2 are internal leadership. So if you've made any organizational product or thought leadership within your company, like you grew the company, you scaled it, you grew the team, or you developed and grew the product that the company is building, then that's internal leadership. If you have a marketing or biz dev background, or that's your role, and you contributed to the company's revenue, customer growth, or commercial success for the company, that's internal leadership. Okay. These next ones, other than number 7, is external thought leadership. So if you contribute to any open source projects, if you won any industry awards, not company awards, but industry awards, if you have any speaking engagements, if you published in any major trade publications, I'll get to that in a sec. If you're a panel speaker, if you were a judge at a competition, and if you led any large technology-led industry initiatives. Okay, so those are you can see that that's external thought leadership. That's outside of your day-to-day job. They want you to go out into industry and become a thought leader there, or show examples of that. High salary is internal, because obviously it's a contract that you need to show, and you need to prove to the assessor that your salary is high. It's not up to the assessor to determine that your salary is high. It's up to you to tell them that it's high. And a lot of people ask me, how do I do that? Well, when you go and look for a job, and you get offered a salary, you want to know what the market rate is, because you want to know if you're getting market rate or higher. So you would go on to those salary insights company, and you would, check your title and see where you fit. This is the type of evidence that you would need to prove to the assessor. That's a really good top tip for you. And you need to prove to the assessor, this is what the salary insights companies are saying about my salary, and my salary is higher than that. So I have a high salary. There's nowhere for them to move, because you prove that point to them. You don't say, this is my salary, assessor, please determine that it is high. That's not their job. Your job is to prove to them that it is high. And other examples of leadership is letters of support from industry experts to help you fulfill this criteria. You can show news clippings, you can show the actual awards, you can show promotion material of when you were asked to speak at events. You can also show pictures of you speaking at the event, and of when it was and how many people were in the room, pictures of, you on stage and heads in the audience. Open source, lines of code, if you any articles that you've written or you were mentioned in, any media and press, any books that you've written, which I've helped lots of clients where they're authors of their books. Again, when they're featured in any interviews that they have been, people have asked them to, be featured in a magazine and being interviewed on a particular topic. Now, these are all about outside of your company. So, any industry awards and anything that you've spoken at events, not to promote your company, but to promote your own thought leadership in the space. Because if you're there to promote your company, that's part of your job. But if you're there to promote your thought leadership, you so happen to work for your company, then that is okay. So these are examples of leadership. I know it can sound overwhelming, but you know what the criteria is. You may not be ready to apply, but you know what you need to work towards. Use these as goals for you to achieve. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about personal branding, because when I work with clients and help them structure their evidence for their application, it's almost like we are building their personal brand. Some people have already built it before coming to me, but in the process of gathering all the evidence, we are building their personal brand. It's self-promoting, it's raising your profile, and personal branding is about having an intentional effort to create a public perception of you by positioning yourself as a leader or authority in your field. It's not bragging. Please don't think of it as bragging, because I know that, coming from my own background, we're not supposed to go out and tell people what we've done or how our achievements, because that seems like it's bragging, but it's not. Your job in this process is to highlight your achievements, establish your reputation. The assessor needs to assess you. You need to build trust with the assessor, okay, because they want to know, like, and trust you to endorse you. And you want to communicate your unique attributes that you bring to your current or desired industry. You need to convince the assessor that they need you in the UK, and that everything that you've done in the past shows that you are worthy, or that you deserve to be in the UK. Okay, I talk a lot about this in my course, which I will announce later on. Thought leadership. Okay, we talk about thought leadership, especially when we're talking about the mandatory criteria leadership. It's about sharing your insights and ideas and a unique point of view that provoke new ways of thinking, sparks discussions, debates, and inspires action. A true thought leader knows a topic inside and out and has formed a clear, unique, and defensible point of view about it, and freely shares that perspective. You are the one that has been working in that tech industry, in that specific field. It's okay to find your voice and to share it and talk about, why you think this way, because you have the right experience and expertise. And this is the type of thing that brings people out of their comfort zone to find their voice and to share their expertise, share what they've learned, and become a thought leader. This is the type of thing that the assessors are looking for. I know it's scary, speaking up in meetings, going on LinkedIn to share articles that you find interesting, that has a different perspective, and put your opinion across in there. People want to hear from you. As I said, everyone's story is unique and different, and I work with people every day, and I draw this out of them, and I learn so much, by people like you and me who are working in this industry for so long. And it's a shame that they're only sharing it with me. I want them to share it to the world, because they're working on such interesting and innovative projects, or they have such great insights. So that's something that I want you to have to think about as well. So that's the leadership criteria. Now let's move on, and I'm running out of time, but I really wanted to talk about leadership because it's such an important thing, and you don't just get it overnight. It is a work in progress, and use that as a goal if you don't already have it. Now, I'm going to go through these 4 criteria, the optional criteria, quickly. The first one is about innovation. So you need to have a proven track record of innovation if you're going for talent, or if you're going for promos, you need to show examples of innovation as a founder, senior exec of a product-led digital technology company, or as an employee working on a new digital field or concept. So not only what you have done is innovative, what the company has done is innovative. It's new, it's different, and you need to prove that. Not everyone has patents, but I've worked with loads of clients that do. So any patents, maybe not granted, because it takes a while to be granted. Patent pending applications are fine to provide as evidence. Any of your designs, if your business, account, stock is, I'll get to the employment contract in a sec. Any concepts that you're working on, any prototypes and strategy that you help the company deliver on to sell their products, or the trajectory of all their product development and launching the products. And you can show that through the innovation criteria. The guidelines have said that employment contracts can be used to show innovation. Please don't do that. It's very misleading, because high salary under leadership requires you to show your employment contract, not innovation. So don't include this under innovation. And I have had clients do that, and they've been unsuccessful. but that's what the guidelines say. So just be wary that that shouldn't be going under innovation. It should go under the leadership criteria. Okay, you need 3 examples to show your innovation, and it's from you're working at these companies working on a new digital field or concept. Okay, and they have to be product led. So you need 3 examples to show your innovation. 3 examples, 3 pages per example. So your documents would be 9 pages long. The second optional criteria is the voluntary work. So it's proof of recognition for work beyond your occupation that contributes to the advancement of the field. This criteria requires you to establish 2 things: that it's not part of your day-to-day job, and that you need to prove that you had some impact to the digital tech sector, the advancement of the field. The type of evidence that you need to provide is, the type of examples of this volunteer work is community work, volunteer work, and the examples are any letters of support, any pictures, promotional material, proof that you've done this volunteer work. You need to provide context as well, explain what the volunteer work, how long have you done it, who are they, do they have a website, screenshots of the website. It can be structured mentoring programs. So you need to explain what this mentoring program is, how many mentees did you mentor, how long have you done it for. It's not good enough that you've done it once over a period of 3 months. Don't forget any letters of support you provide to help you fulfill the criteria. You need to have known them for more than 12 months. So this mentoring stuff, you need to have done it over a period of time, not just for one cohort. Once off. And I was part of a STEM ambassador program, so I use that as evidence as well. And I did that over a period of time, and I went out and helped kids with workshops, wearable tech workshops and things like that. And I did that over a course of 12 months and more. They've specifically said that mentoring at universities is not accepted, and mentoring startups is not accepted. That's what the guidelines have said, so don't use these as examples. So you need to find community organizations that have a structured mentorship program. And then if you want to showcase any evidence of you speaking at conferences, you need to have more than 100 people, and it should be at the main stage. But that kind of stuff can go under leadership as well. So, some of the proof of recognition examples, I like to stack it over to leadership, because leadership is mandatory, and some of them can be overlapped, but don't use the same example over 2 criteria. You have to choose different. The guidelines provide that it has to be unique documents. So if you want to use the conference speaking gig, put it over leadership or put it over proof of recognition. Don't use the same evidence across 2 criteria. The third optional criteria is providing significant impact to the field. So you need to show 3 pieces of evidence that you've made significant technical, commercial, entrepreneurial contributions to the field as a founder, senior exec, or employee of a product-led digital technology company. So again, this is about the work that you've done, that you've made significant impact to the field, okay? And the field can be to the company, to customers, to partners, or to the industry. So the field is quite broad, and you determine what the field is. This is about impact. So you need to show metrics. So any kind of metrics or growth, they could be, evidence could be letters of support to explain what you did and how you made the impact. Metrics and growth is always good, like percentage. They're always good to use actual numbers. Analytics, revenue, customers, before and after. Before you worked on this project, what did it look like? After you worked on this project, were there more customers? If so, how many? What types of customers? How much revenue? Revenue is quite a tricky one. It's confidential company information. So how I get around that is maybe say there was a 10 or 20% increase in revenue, because that gives you some metrics, but it doesn't disclose any confidential commercial information, because not many people would want to sign that you've increased revenue by 20 million or whatever it is. But most people don't want to disclose that if they're going to sign a letter. You can also talk about the scalability of the company and the potential impact. If it's quite a new product, but show proof. Any company awards that have been won since you've been there, but that you've made any significant contributions towards. So if you were working on a product, a highly innovative product, and that won an innovation award or something, or other award, or fundraising, or something to do with what you were working on, you can show that award, but someone has to attest to your input, your significant contributions to that. So this is quite broad in the type of evidence. It could be anything, and I help lots of clients deal with this. And metrics and growth is what I focus on. Okay, get numbers. A lot of people are so busy in their job that they do the work and they move on. They don't go back to say, hey, what was my impact? And I need you to think about that in this process. And then moving forward from this process, all my clients think about is, yeah, what happened to that project I worked on? I want to go back and see my impact and write it down, because you'll forget. And it's a good process to go through, especially in your own jobs, and you have performance reviews every year, your KPIs. Use metrics and growth when you do your KPIs and your performance reviews, because that is, you're doing the manager's job, and you can prove that this is the impact that you've made over a period of time. Time to ask for promotion, time to ask for a higher salary, because you know your impact, and that's what you're telling your manager, that's what you're worth, and that's what you that's the value that you bring to the company. Okay. The final optional criteria is your academic contributions, and again, not everyone chooses that. If you can demonstrate exceptional ability or examples, if you're going under potential or promise in the field by academic contributions through research published or endorsed by an expert. So if you published any journals, if you've got any R&D grants or innovation vouchers, which I had, if you've got any academic research that you worked with the university to produce some papers and you help them in their research, letters of support from professors. But it doesn't include, if you have done a master's or a PhD, it doesn't include your thesis unless you published it somewhere in a journal. Okay, and then your professor can attest to that you've made some academic contributions to his research or to the field, that it was published in a journal and it was peer reviewed. You even presented it at this conference. So there's a story there to be told, but don't include any master's or PhD thesis that you just submitted and then it just went nowhere, because that is for your education. It's not for the industry or for the academic sector. Okay, so that's one thing. Don't get that confused with academic contribution. Okay, I hope you're still with me. Yes, the people are still here. No one's dropped off. So those, in a nutshell, are the criteria in a bit more detail for you. And I've got some top tips here, and I've got a bonus tip at the end if you keep staying with me. And we're nearly finished. This is coming from my own hat of being a recipient and being a coach. And there's only 5 top tips here, but I have loads. The top 5 is, this is your chance to tell your unique story. Each piece of evidence has a story behind it. You need to tell that story. A lot of my clients or people that come to me and say, look, I've been rejected, here's my application. There's lots of screenshots, but there's no context or background in what they're producing. There's not even a title to say which criteria they're going under or putting that evidence under. So each document, each 3-page document needs to have a story or context, and it has to fit within your overall story that you're trying to tell the assessor. Okay. Your tech network is your net worth in this process and in your career as well. You're relying on people to help vouch for you for the work that you've done, and the assessors are also looking at them as well. They must be industry experts. So if you don't have a great tech network, or if you've not spoken to people in a few months or years, now's the time to start, finding out, are they going to be useful in this process for you? This process is also about self-promotion. If you don't promote yourself, then the assessor's not going to be convinced that you are an exceptionally talented person or have an emerging or potential to be an exceptional talent. Being eligible is one thing. Meeting the criteria requires a strategy in putting all the 15 documents in place, and that's what I'm here for. I can tell if you're eligible very quickly, but I need a bit more time to determine whether or not you're going to fulfill the 3 out of 5 criteria, because it's the evidence that we need to find to put together. Also, contact me sooner rather than later if you need support, okay? Because I'm very busy also, and people think that this process only takes a few weeks or, a month or so. I've worked with clients during COVID. I worked with them for 2 months because everyone was at home. Now it's up to 3 to 4 months. I've worked with clients for 9 months. I don't like to do that because it's too long, and you do get project fatigue because this is a project. But I do want to talk to you sooner rather than later, even if you're at the very early stages. I've helped people that I spoke to 2 years ago, and they're slowly doing the work. And then 2 years later, they come to me and we're ready to go. So it is a process depending on where you currently are at. And then I can help you work out a plan to then be ready to apply. Don't assume that the assessor knows anything. Okay, as I said, it's a story. You need to bring the assessor up to speed with what you're presenting and give them context and background. The assessors don't click on links. Only put on links if you have a screenshot and you're sourcing where that screenshot lives. But don't just put links. They won't click on them, and then it's a waste. Assessors assess you and your experts as well. They need to have credibility alongside you. This is why I tell everyone to Google yourself and Google your experts and make sure that you show that they are credible people in the industry. The assessors are only reading your application and they have to make a judgment call. So you need to provide all the evidence in front of them and really ensure, and this is what you want them to do, is you want the assessors to know, like, and trust you. You want your assessors to know, like, and trust your experts, because what they're saying about you, they need to trust. These are the common questions that I have all the time when I speak to people, is whether or not they're eligible, how do they present their documents, what is relevant information, who can be my experts, how do I show my innovations and impact, or show that I'm an exceptional leader, where do I start, because it is an overwhelming process, and I've received an unsuccessful result, what should I do? Should I appeal or should I resubmit? And I help with all of this. I've seen lots and lots and lots of examples. I've dealt with this. I've done this for 7 years since I got my visa. If you want to check your eligibility, please do go onto my website at michellehewer.co.uk and fill in my eligibility questionnaire. Please do it as well as you can, because again, I'm like an assessor. I don't have time to be Googling you or whatever. You need to present everything for me. Tell me what leadership skills you have, if any, and then I can invite you for a free discovery call if you are eligible, and then we take it a bit further. Okay, if you're not eligible, I will let you know, and then that's that. I'm very busy, and you need to convince me as well of all the evidence that you have, or the leadership, the innovations, the companies that you work for. Present it to me so that I can quickly assess you. Okay. Now, I just want to announce something I've been working on really hard in the last few months. I have a new online course coming out. It was supposed to be launched in April, but I've been so busy. It's now launching next month. It's online, and what I've discussed briefly in the 3 slides earlier on, I go through that in a lot more detail. I give you really good examples of what your leadership evidence should look like and how you should structure it and what story you can tell. This is launching next month, and I'm really proud of it because I've spoken to people in the last year. They may have the other criteria, the optional criteria, which I discussed, the 4 optional criteria. What they're lacking is leadership. And as I said, it's a work in progress. They may not have it now, but they can work towards it in the next 3, 6, 9 to 12 months. This is why I created this course, because I feel that there is a gap and people want to apply for this visa, but they just don't know how, or they're not ready yet. This Leadership in Tech course will get you ready to fulfill the leadership criteria. Now, these are my other packages of support that I have. My online leadership course is coming in May. I have another one that if you are ready and you want to do it yourself, you'll have access to my membership area. Okay. There's a strategy session as well that I provide. I'll get through that in a sec. Then I offer a review package, and my premium coaching package is a 1-to-1 bespoke work with you for 8 to 12 weeks, and you get end-to-end support from me. There's a 90% success rate here. Obviously, I do have great success rate for others as well, but this is my best package because I'm with you from the very beginning to when you submit your stage 1, and I also help with appeals as well. I'll just quickly go in a bit more detail. My membership area has all these resources for you. You can have a look at it on my website. We don't have time because I want to answer some of your questions. It's when you're ready and you want to just go ahead and start preparing your application. My strategy session is 2.5 hours, and I help you start your application. We look at how you can meet the criteria and the evidence that you can present in each criteria, who your experts are going to be, what evidence, your future plans, and help you to create your professional story. And we bang that out in 2.5 hours. I had one yesterday, amazing. We started with nothing. At the end, he had a whole checklist. He had a plan. He knew where he was going. And it was really good to see in 2.5 hours we did it. We were wrecked at the end, but we did it, and he can go and get started now. My review, once we go for the strategy session, you can do a little bit yourself. I will check in with you halfway to check some of your documents. Then you go and do it yourself. And then I act as the reviewer, an assessor, and I will make comments on all your pieces of evidence, where the gaps are, how to improve. I've done this for a lot of people. My review comments, it comes out to be about 25 pages long, and I go through in detail what is good, but usually what is missing. That's what you want me to do, is how do I make my application better? And I do this. And when I do this, my clients, usually most of them, actually 99% of them, are endorsed because I'm with them at the very beginning, in the middle, and right at the end, before they submit, and they understand what is missing in their application to make it even better. Now, my bespoke coaching package is my full support. You get access to my membership area, which includes my leadership course, strategy session, and from the strategy session, we work together every week, each week, for 8 to 12 weeks. I will stick with you. We work on 2 documents per week. We have weekly calls with action items. I help you identify and highlight and structure all your achievements, successes, impact, innovation, leadership in the tech sector. I edit and review all your 15 documents. I ensure you fulfill the criteria based on your evidence, and a full review before submission. And, I handhold you throughout the process, and trust me, it is a very stressful process. I've been there. I had no one to help me. I didn't sleep for 3 months when I was doing my application. And even with my help, my clients do have lots of questions along the way. But any questions they have, I answer them, move on to the next. And it just keeps us moving until they're ready to submit. Okay, so I do help you put forward a very strong application. I don't guarantee endorsement because that is up to the assessor to decide, but I do guarantee a very strong application, and you will be very proud of what you submit at the end of it. I dot every I, I cross every T to make sure everything's ready to go. These are some of my successful recipients, my clients who I've interviewed on my YouTube channel. Not everyone wants to be interviewed, which is absolutely fine. They want to keep their anonymity, but these are some that have really been kind enough to share their story about working with me, but also how they found the process. I've got people from US, Mexico, Nigeria, India, Serbia, China, yeah, so loads. I remember all of them. They're all in the UK doing amazing things as well. And, Katie's great support. She's from LinkedIn, and I helped her through a lot of stress, but she got there in the end. My last bonus tip, thank you so much for staying with me. Write your personal statement at the end. A lot of people make the mistake of doing it at the beginning of their whole application. But my advice is to write it at the end, after collating all your evidence and structuring all your evidence. Why? Because you know what's in your application, and all you need to do for your personal statement is summarize everything that the assessor is about to read. You do your personal statement at the end. When you submit your application, the assessor reads your personal statement first. So you're setting them up for what they're about to read and see in your 14 pieces of evidence. Okay, that's my biggest bonus tip. More information on my website, YouTube channel. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook. You can access me through my newsletter as well. So have a look there. And I know I've gone a little bit over, and thank you so much for sticking with me. And I'm going to go through some of the questions. So here now is the time. I'm going to stay on for another 10 minutes. Hopefully, if you have questions, I'm going to have a look here. Okay, how does the format of the CV vary, if any, from a CV you might send, say, as part of the job application? When I work with clients, thank you for your question. When I work with clients, we overhaul their CV because it's specifically for the global talent visa. And in my membership area, I talk a lot about the CV and how it should be structured. I've helped my clients with their CVs so well that they've come back and said, Michelle, the CV that we worked on for the global talent when she got it is so good. Now she has to change it to make it ready for a job application because it's the CV needs to be specific to the global talent visa. It needs to show that you are a leader in your field. It needs to show, you know, a bit more detail because it's like an addendum to your application for the global talent. But generally for the CV, it's 3 pages. Okay, and everything that we've done with the CV, you copy and paste it over to your LinkedIn profile. But obviously you want to leave anything that's confidential in your CV out of your LinkedIn profile, but they should kind of be consistent. For your CV, what I like to do is, you know, where you've worked, have a summary about the company that you've worked at, because the assessor's not going to know every single company that everyone's worked on. So maybe a quick summary to prove that it is a product-led and that it's a digital tech company as well. And maybe like a link, source, a link to the company website or whatever, just to show that it's real. So yes, do the CV as well as you can, because the assessor will look at that. And again, what you've done in your evidence, you know, if you've got any innovation or impact, summarize it in your CV as well if you've got the space to. Okay, list your achievements in your CV, show as much metrics as possible, use leadership type words as well. Optional criteria for, you want to show that screen again? Oh, okay, hang on, let me see if I can do that. No, I can't. I'm really sorry, but I do have problems with the Canva, but I can, it'll be on YouTube tomorrow. So go on my YouTube and I will send you the link through my website. I'm really sorry. Recommendation letters, what's the format? Okay, yes. So recommendation letters are extremely cumbersome and tiring for an expert to write. There is on the Technation website, there's a list of things that needs to be there. I do have a template on my DIY membership area that helps us experts write the letter for you. But you might need to prompt them for the specific things they need to say, because they are not privy to the information that, or the evidence that you're going to submit in your application. And experts need to confirm and validate what you've submitted as well. So you might need to prompt them and say, hey, this is what I'm going to be submitting. You need to confirm that I did this and how I did it and what was the impact. Okay, so how can you show impact if you're the founder of an early stage tech founder? So there are different ways to show impact. You need to show results, okay? I'm just thinking if it's early stage, it depends. If you've won any company awards, industry awards for your startup, that's impact. If you've launched any products and it's out there, that's impact. If you've got customers, dashboards, screenshots, that's impact. If you've got any letters from mentors or board of advisors or co-founders who can attest to what you've done, that shows impact. There's lots of things, so I hope that helps. Okay. If you're a first-class graduate, can you use that as OC4? No. Academic contributions is only really about published journals, articles, any research that you've helped a professor with. So it sounds like a certification, and certifications was actually the 6th criteria. You know how there's 5 criteria? Certifications was the 6th criteria, and a lot of people use, you know, their degrees and technical certifications that they received, professional qualifications that they received as part of fulfilling this criteria. They've gotten rid of that now, so anything to do with certifications is not required. That just goes into your CV. It's not required as evidence. Okay, I do have some more questions. Yeah, so I mean, I think I answered your question about having different roles and titles over a course of your career. So it's about storytelling and whether or not you can use that evidence to help tell your story and fulfill the criteria. And I hope that helps. So yeah, if you are weak in the leadership criteria, you need to start building that up. And it might take you some time, 3, 6, 9, 12 months, but also have a look at internal leadership and external leadership. And I can talk to you more about that. And this is the whole reason why I decided to build that leadership course, to help people get out there, get out of their comfort zone, and to become more of an industry thought leader. Yes, a lot of people do focus on client work. This process, again, is not about a job application or what you do in your job. It's also about your impact in the industry as well. Yes, so be careful about when you start, doing things to help you fulfill the leadership criteria. The assessors do come back. Some of them that I've seen have said, you've done all these things within the last 2 months before you submitted. What did you do before? And they know that, certain evidence is done for the purpose of the global talent visa. And this is why the leadership one requires a lot more time and a bit more of a strategy. And it not only helps you with your global talent visa, but it also helps you in your own professional career development as well. So there needs to be some time. And once you do, maybe speak at an event or write an article, you'll be a bit more visible. You will get more opportunities to make an impact to the tech sector. People will start to know you. They'll invite you to certain things. And I thought all about this in my leadership course, because I did the exact same thing. I did one thing led to another, and I got so many opportunities by being visible, being Googleable, and I shared stories, shared insights. Everything I knew about the wearable tech industry, I was out there talking about it, blogging about it, going to conferences and speaking about it. And then people started to know me. I became on lists, and I was interviewed, and it just snowballed from there. So just start and see where it leads. But you could talk to me, and we can make a plan and strategy for it as well. So I hope that helps. Yes. All evidence that you provide should be in the last 5 years, okay? If you've done something a lot longer or a lot older, you shouldn't be using that as evidence unless you can show consistency across the board. So if you've done something over 5 years ago and there's nothing within the last 5 years, they're going to say, where is the stuff within the last 5 years? And that anything that you've done, over 5 years ago should go into your CV. And that helps tell your story. But in terms of actual evidence, the guidelines provide that it should be in the last 5 years, unfortunately. So I know a lot of people have done things a lot, when they were more inclined to do it. Obviously, COVID hit and things didn't happen. But during COVID, it was an opportunity for some of my clients to actually go online, and they built their personal branding and profile online. And then when COVID was lifted, they gave them the confidence to go out and speak publicly as well. So they used that as an opportunity. And you can still do online stuff now. So, the idea is to get started. Some people are now saying thank you and dropping off. Hang on, there's one more. Can you use a grant or award for your startup for mandatory criteria? Yes, you can. Mandatory criteria awards are usually awards for you. So if your name's on it, then yes. But if it's a startup award, you need to sort of talk about how you led the growth of your company by winning this industry award. Or you can put it under impact, that it's a company award which you made a significant contribution for. So it's how you want to tell that story, depending on what criteria you want to select. And I hope that's fine. I think I've answered all the questions. As you can tell, I've got my email, techvisa@michellehewer.co.uk if you want to ask any more questions. But I hope this has helped, and thank you so much for joining me. I haven't done one of these, I think, for 2 years. But I do have an extended version of this webinar in my membership area, and I'll go through a lot more detail. And then, as I said, my leadership course is going to be online and public next month. And there's even more information. I can talk about this all day long. I love it. I've got so many examples because I've worked on so many applications. And again, each application is different. And I love it because I can get creative in how to tell my client's story. And we discuss it in great length and I ask them so many questions, and there are things in there that they may not have thought about. But I'm looking for certain things to maybe put in letters by your experts or in your personal statement, in your CV, dot it around in some pieces of your evidence. So I love having these conversations with you so that I can help you build your application and create your story so that the assessor can see and know, like, and trust you so that they can endorse you for the exceptional talent on promise. Oh, thank you so much for your feedback. I really appreciate it. I've got 2 more questions before I have to go. If your product is not yet developed, how do you show impact? It's very difficult to show impact if it's not yet developed. Maybe it can go under innovation because it's an example of innovation, potentially. So I don't know too much detail, but that's what I generally tell my clients, and then we tease that out a bit more, and then your experts can vouch for the work that you've done and how innovative it is and the potential impact. But impact is really about what has happened. So I wouldn't put it under impact if you can't show that it has happened yet. And one more question. Is it a right to share prototypes for IP reasons? You can share prototypes, but again, confidential. Even though your application is confidential, I also am very mindful that you still are sharing things that are confidential, even though you put confidential all over it. Because once it's out there, you don't know where they're putting this information and who's reading it. So we just have to be extra careful. I used to be a lawyer, so I'm very mindful and cognizant of confidentiality. So there's always ways that we can talk about how to show your work, but not show all of your work. So I help my clients with that as well. And just to reiterate, when we talk about commercial stuff, if you remember, the experts can say, look, I can't disclose due to the information being commercially sensitive, but what I can say is it's significant or it's a percentage of. Similarly with the prototypes, you can't share it for IP reasons, but I can share an example of it and you show that. That's the way to kind of get around it. And then your experts can vouch for you. I hope that helps. Okay. I'm going to leave it here. I have gone over. I did say that I was going to go 15 minutes over in my webinar registration. So I am only 5 minutes over, but I do want to thank you so much. And any questions, please just ask. And I hope to see you soon and talk to you soon. And I'll leave it here. Thank you. Bye. Oh, thank you. See you.